That was exhausting. Oh my God. Hey, open up!
Over the years, a lot of fast food restaurants have come and gone, some more memorable than others. Here are 15 forgotten fast food chains. Gino's Burgers.
When he says we're going to Gino's, we go to Gino's.
Gino's was a fast food hamburger restaurant that was originally founded in Baltimore in 1957. The founders included several football players at the time, including the restaurant's namesake, Gino Marchetti. This group of football players were not the first, nor would they be the last, professional athletes to dive into the fast food game. Unfortunately for them, they would find it difficult to compete with the amount of competition. There were many other restaurants out there also selling fast food hamburgers.
Hey, what are you doing?
I'm selling hamburgers.
And the last Gino's restaurant would close down in 1982, marking the end of the chain's run. In more recent years, there was an attempt to revive the fast food chain, resulting in the opening and subsequent closing of several new locations. While their website advertises franchising opportunities, there are currently only 2 small locations still in operation, so it does not look like Gino's is going to make a big comeback anytime soon. Chooks Fresh and Tasty.
It's not just about fried chicken night, man.
Chooks was an Australian restaurant chain that got its start in 1991, but under a different name, River Rooster. With a focus on chicken, the fast food chain tended to operate in smaller locations where their direct competitors did not yet have any locations. They rebranded in 2003 with their new moniker coming from a competition that let their customers suggest and vote on the new name. Chooks Fresh and Tasty was the result of this competition, and the company followed through with their rebranding.
I'm gonna hide and change my identity to a name no one else has ever heard of.
Unfortunately, the name change did not help them stand up against bigger names like KFC, and the company was bought out by one of their direct competitors and was rebranded under the popular Chicken Treat brand. At the height of their popularity, Chooks Fresh and Tasty had 34 locations in Australia. Henry's Hamburgers.
I love these burgers, so delicious.
Henry's Hamburgers was yet another fast food hamburger restaurant that attempted to make a name for itself in the oversaturated fast food market of the 1950s. Henry's originally opened in 1954. They grew quickly, with a total of 35 locations opening up in the first 2 years, and over 200 locations were opened across America at the height of their popularity. This popularity would not last forever, with Henry's beginning to rapidly close locations starting in the mid-1970s. Today, one lone Henry's Hamburgers location still stands in Benton Harbor, Michigan, a lone survivor in the mass closing of hundreds of restaurants due to their inability to directly compete with the large fast food chains such as McDonald's. Little Tavern.
The commissary will continue to serve horrifying, artery-clogging hamburgers.
Little Tavern was a fast food hamburger chain that started operations in 1927, growing to 33 total restaurants by 1937. While the restaurants did have a few small tables for seating, most of their business was takeout, with their slogan being, "Buy 'em by the bag." Little Tavern operated for quite some time before going completely out of business in 2008, one of the longest operating fast food hamburger chains that, for a while, competed with the big names like McDonald's and Burger King. There are likely more than a few people out there who remember the quaint design of the Little Tavern shops.
I just realized why I remember this place.
Originally looking similar to White Castle building designs, Little Tavern switched to a Tudor-style cottage design for their stores in order to stand out more from the competition. In the end, the design didn't stop this franchise from disappearing for good. Lum's.
I picked up some chili dogs from Lum's.
Lum's was a chain of family restaurants that originally started as a hot dog stand that was sold to new owners for around $10,000. The new owners took the successful hot dog stand and turned it into some quick-service family restaurants, mainly focusing on fast food-style food served in a sit-down restaurant. Their signature item was a hot dog that was steamed in beer. The original recipe was the reason the owners purchased the hot dog stand in the first place.
It's a secret recipe that has been in my family for generations.
They saw success for a few years, operating from 1956 to 1982. Over these years, ownership of the chain changed hands a couple of times until the last owners had to declare bankruptcy. Pup and Taco.
I was thinking tacos and nachos.
Well, that sounds good to me.
Pup and Taco first opened in 1956 in Southern California. This was a fast food chain dedicated to serving both hot dogs and tacos as their main menu options, hence the name Pup and Taco. They grew quickly. In early 1972, they had 50 locations, and a year later they had opened another 12 locations, only continuing to grow over the years.
Growing the business is generally considered to be a good thing.
However, in 1984, Taco Bell bought out 99 of the Pup and Taco locations, mainly for their prime real estate locations. 3 locations did remain under the Pup and Taco name after the Taco Bell buyout, but these would also close in 2010, ending the long-running history of this hot dog and taco-focused fast food chain. Red Barn.
I see a farm with a red barn.
I know who's in the barn.
Red Barn was a chain of restaurants that served food out of locations built to look, unsurprisingly, like large red barns. Originally opened in 1961, the chain would find a lot of popularity quickly, spreading across the United States and even venturing into Canada and Australia. They were poised to become one of the largest restaurant chains on an international scale. Unfortunately, they would meet a different fate. After being bought out by a company in the late 1960s, that company then merged with another who seemed much less interested in maintaining the Red Barn restaurants.
If you want to grow the business, you got to play the game.
They stopped advertising efforts and slowly let the rights and leases of the restaurants lapse until they had all either been repurposed, bought out, or rebranded. A lot of the Australian locations were bought out by McDonald's and reconstructed into their own buildings. While this chain was all but forgotten for a while, there has been a recent resurgence of nostalgia-driven groups who are calling for some new investors to open the chain back up. White Tower.
There used to be a White Castle right here in this location. Where is it?
White Castle is still a popular fast food hamburger restaurant that's been in operation for a century. White Tower was a fast food hamburger restaurant that blatantly tried to copy the secret of White Castle's success. Originally founded in 1926, 5 years after White Castle, White Tower found its peak popularity in the 1950s with 230 locations across the United States. There were 2 lawsuits between White Tower and White Castle in their long histories, and White Castle won both, with the courts having determined that White Tower had deliberately copied White Castle's name and look.
Stop copying me!
While White Castle did not ask them to change their name, White Tower was made to change the look of their stores. While they no longer have a few hundred stores and many people have forgotten that they existed, White Tower does still have 1 restaurant in operation to this day. Milligans Beefy Burgers.
Now who wants a hamburger?
Milligans Beefy Burgers was founded originally in 1942 in Tennessee. By 1964, Milligans had expanded to 16 locations in Florida. They would start to see their decline in the 1960s, another victim of the mass competition in the fast food hamburger business.
You declare bankruptcy, all your problems go away.
Milligans was unable to compete with the major fast food chains that had a lot more money to put into advertising to draw in customers. The once extremely popular Florida hamburger chain would begin to close restaurants in the 1960s, and today it's largely forgotten despite its once iconic history in the region. Geri's Hamburgers.
Big hamburgers, small hamburgers too.
Geri's Hamburgers was opened in the early 1960s, with their restaurant and business model being heavily influenced by McDonald's at the time. This was due to the fact that one of the original owners had actually been a vice president at McDonald's prior to opening his own fast food chain. The chain started with little to no interior seating, originally focusing on quick takeout service, though they would adapt over the years and add more seating as the demand for eat-in fast food became greater. In 1981, the corporation itself would fold, though some franchises operated independently until the last one closed in 1999. Minnie Pearl's Chicken.
It's here in this fried chicken restaurant.
Minnie Pearl's Fried Chicken was named after the famous country singer Minnie Pearl. But despite the fact that they used such a famous name to sell franchises, the restaurant chain itself would not last long. This was largely due to the fact that the chain wasn't founded based on a really good recipe like KFC. Minnie Pearl's franchises were allowed to cook their chicken however they wanted, with no real consistency or uniformity among the different franchises aside from the name.
You're not a chef. Oh, really? Then why do I already have a restaurant in Orlando's largest indoor water park?
This would ultimately be the reason that Minnie Pearl's Fried Chicken would end, with customers quickly disappointed in the lack of direction or consistency among the restaurants themselves. The original founders did not seem to care, having moved on to other ventures, though Minnie Pearl herself was embarrassed to have her name attached to such a failed franchise. Wetson's.
This is a tasty burger.
Wetson's was yet another fast food hamburger chain, with burgers probably being the most popular type of fast food sold for the past 100 or so years. Wetson's originally opened in 1959 and saw popularity due to their 15-cent hamburgers and 10-cent fries at the time. Their most popular hamburger can be compared to the Big Mac and was called the Big W. At their peak, Wetson's would have over 70 restaurants, and there are a lot of similarities between them and McDonald's. From their slogans to their clown mascots, Wetson's seemed to follow many of the popular McDonald's tactics, but kept just far enough away from copying them that they would not get sued.
I mean, hey, they play it smart.
Despite their attempts to compete with and copy McDonald's, the restaurant chains would ultimately close down in the mid-1970s when they merged with another company and effectively ended their own brand. Pizza Haven.
Pizza? Where's pizza?
Shush.
Pizza Haven was an Australian fast food pizza chain that was founded by four brothers in 1984. By the year 2000, the brothers had seen success in the franchising of their pizza-based restaurants, with around 180 restaurants being open by that time. They had expanded all over Australia and New Zealand, and in 2005, the majority of their New Zealand locations were bought out by Domino's Pizza and converted into their own stores. However, a few of the Pizza Haven stores remained open in New Zealand, but eventually even those stores would be converted into Domino's Pizza outlets.
The Domino's guy brings the pizza like this now.
In 2008, the rest of the company was bought out, and all remaining Pizza Haven stores were eventually converted into Pizza Hut locations. Kenny Rogers Roasters.
Not fast food, good food quickly.
Kenny Rogers has had his name attached to a lot of things over the years. The country singer wasn't just famous for his music, but also for diversifying his business ventures. Founded in 1991 as a chicken restaurant, the singer and his business associates would boast a total of 156 worldwide locations at the height of their popularity. One of Rogers' business partners was a former CEO of KFC, so he had a good partner who knew the chicken business.
Did you just call me chicken?
Despite this, the Kenny Rogers locations across the United States would close by late 2011, and only their international restaurants remained in business. Naugles.
The only thing weird would be if someone didn't like Mexican food because I'm making fajitas.
Naugles was a Mexican-style fast food restaurant that was founded in Southern California in 1970. The chain saw moderate success during its 25 or so years in the business. While Naugles would have over 200 locations across the United States over the years, they would disappear quickly. Naugles locations were bought out by Del Taco in 1995, and the name was taken off the market as all of their locations were instead converted to operate as Del Taco outlets instead. While there was a recent attempt at reviving this once beloved Mexican fast food restaurant, it has not yet blown up to the proportions of the previous incarnation.
It came back!
There is a chance that Naugles could be making a rare comeback. For those who do remember the restaurants, this is an exciting prospect. And for the many who have never tried it, we get the chance to see what the hype around the Naugles name is all about.